Alright guys, welcome back for another episode of the Crappie Connection. You sit back, turn your earbuds up, get ready for a long one because we got Mr. Crappie here. I'm Justin Berry.
Brad Chappell.
Man, just get ready. Mr. Crappie, welcome.
Hey man, I'm just sitting here in this cabin on Lake Washington and just looking out here, and it's just so beautiful and quiet, and the wind's blowing a little bit hard today, but I want to be out there so bad I can't see straight. But this is just a beautiful place to have this podcast. It's unbelievable, and I appreciate the invite to come and hey man, good little trip over here and from Texas and come down here in South. This is not South Mississippi. It's kind of mid-state,
it's
right?
It's kind of a northwest. I guess that's what
is that right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Delta.
Mississippi goes all the way to the ocean. I don't like them ocean fish, but Mississippi's got.
Give everybody kind of a rundown what we're going to do. We got we're going to talk about everything from how he got started in crappie world. We're going to showcase a few products. Got tons of questions from the viewers for you, and then even talk about the invitational. So let's get started. Let's go and get the showcase or whatever you got on the table to get to talk about here.
Hey man, we just over the years, the last 25 years, I've been able to design products, not necessarily under the Mr. Crappie brand, but it started under the Wally Marshall brands of stuff. We've got both these days with several different companies, but one of the new products that I've got coming out with Bullet Weight Companies next year, I'm so excited about, because there's so many people that troll for crappie, or they want to add another hook. They want to put another hook on their line without having to re-rig. Nobody likes tying a bunch of knots, because it takes about 7 minutes or 6 minutes or whatever, when you're in the motel room before a tournament and you're tying up rigs. It's just so much going on and everything. And so actually I came up with a product called the Add-A-Hook. It's new for 2019. Don't go out there looking for it right now, but it's coming down the pike. We're still getting ready to bring it to market in January, February of 19. So I don't know when this is going to air, but I want to show you guys how this works. When you can tie it, like I said, it takes 6 minutes to tie a rig. I can do 2 Add-A-Hooks and a weight in 30 seconds.
You got that time down good, don't you?
It's unreal. That little clip is just amazing.
But anyway, it's a stainless steel wire, and it's got 2 clips on each end. Then in the middle, it has a place for an eyelet to where you can put a snelled hook on there if you want to fish for live bait, or you can put a split ring on there and then put a crappie jig or whatever you want to put on there. But actually I'm using 50-pound braid just to demonstrate here, to show the amount of line that you can use. And so you're going to hold it parallel with the fishing line, and you just wrap it around there about 4 times, and then just pull it up into that clip like that. Then come over on the other side and wrap it around there about 4 times and pull it up in that clip. And it's right there in the middle, and it will not slide either way. I mean, it's so strong that I think that for guides, for people that, hey, when you're in a crappie tournament, time's money.
Time is money.
Time's money. You don't want to be messing around back there tying rigs while your partner's sitting up on the front of the boat.
Can't catch them out of the water.
Exactly. If you ain't got your pole in the water, you can't catch them. So the Add-A-Hook is going to be produced by Bullet Weight Company out of Nebraska. Joe Crumrine and that bunch up there, they do a great job at Bullet Weights. Matter of fact, we have some double swivel weights we're going to call power trollers coming out this year also with the Add-A-Hook. And we'll go from the Add-A-Hook to Add-A-Weight.
That's awesome.
So we're going to do Add-A-Weights after this right here. So these are going to come about 8 to 10 to a pack for like $3.99.
Now, have you done any pound testing on it? Like, have you put it to the test?
Man, I had a 50-pound test on here, and I put a 10-pound weight, and I tried to break it.
On both ways?
On both ways, going both ways. I tried to break it with a 10-pound, just taking it and doing it like that. I had gloves on, and I was trying to, what it did, it bent the staging just a little bit, but it did not break the line.
That's awesome.
And so I'm just saying that in when you're tying rigs, you have a problem of trying to figure out how much space you're going to need for your knots and everything. You just put this right on there exactly where you want it, and it's a done deal. So like I can come up the line here and put another one on, and it's exactly 15 inches from the other one. Or if you're wanting to go 3 foot,
yeah,
I mean, you can put it right on the money.
The one thing I really love about that little dude is that you can adjust it. If you're starting out and you're wanting to find the water column that those fish are suspended at, and you've got them spread out, say 4 foot apart, well, you're really getting all your bites at 10 foot deep. Well, you can shorten them up to have them a foot apart. So that's the adjustment on the water that's going to be astounding for me.
Right, because you're not having to cut your line off, cut your whole rig off, and retie to match what you're trying to fish.
I'll definitely be getting that in my boat.
But the add a hook, man. I tell people, the reason I didn't invent the paper clip is because I was working on the add a hook.
Right, you did a good job. I love it.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm really excited about this product, and I know the crappie anglers and even catfishermen, other people that like, you take a 6-year-old kid that loves to fish, or a young kid, and he's like, "Look, Mom," and there's no knots, and it doesn't stress your line.
It don't stress your line.
Stress.
Yeah.
It doesn't stress your line like a knot. Because when you're tying knots, you might have a burn mark, or you might stretch it a little bit too much. And by using this, you can put it on or take it off the same way.
That's awesome.
You just take it off of there if you don't need it.
Another thing I think is real cool about that, say if you've got your hooks, you can take your hooks off for transport.
Yeah.
Yes.
And keep your pole tangles on, to a manageable level.
Hey, if you're in a tournament, you don't want nobody else seeing what you're using, man. You can just take them off in seconds, and you're still rigged, ready to go.
That's an awesome point right there.
Yeah.
Awesome point.
And we're going to find out, it's just like having a new product, what people go and try and trial and error, and they're going to say, man, I use this in salt water. I use this in whatever, and we'll learn as we go along at Bullet Weights. We've already been requested to do a saltwater version a little bit bigger for chicken rigs and pompano rigs, and it's not in the crappie world, and I don't even know what they're talking about, but I know that we're going to have bigger ones for the saltwater, but being stainless steel, it ain't never going to rust, and it's always going to be there, and
that's awesome.
And as long as you don't hang up and lose your whole rig, I mean, you're but when you do get hung up in 30 seconds, you can be back in the water.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
But I named it the Add a Hook, and it's a trademarked deal. And hey, man, we're just rolling with it and excited about it because it's just something that's going to help the weekend angler because he don't have to tie knots. The tournament fisherman, when time is money, and a guide, especially on a guide trip, man, I used to guide, and I bet I've tied more knots than. Man, Ray Roberts was green timber when we first got started, and that green timber will grab them hooks and grab that fishing line and break you off. And so, but the Add a Hook is going to be a.
You say spring of 2019 when people can really look for it.
Yeah, January, February. This is going to be on the market. Be looking on MrCrappie.com.
Is that where it's going to be there first?
It's going to be there first on MrCrappie.com, and then we'll start getting it out into stores and stuff like that. So I'll keep everybody abreast on what's going on.
I'll be waiting on that. I'll be texting you.
Yeah, well, we're going to send a bunch out, and we're going to have guys testing them all over the country and getting them in the guys' hands, the pro anglers and weekend fishermen too that love to crappie fish. So
that's awesome.
Cool little product for crappie fishing for sure.
Yeah. Hey, well, I appreciate that, guys. Man, it's just been, having the opportunity over the last, like I said, 25 years to work with major manufacturers in the industry to come out with a co-branded product, which is Mr. Crappie or Wally Marshall items, and I listen to the guys out there in the crappie world. I listen to what they have to say.
That's good. That's what it takes.
Because, what do y'all do in Mississippi to what we do in Texas may be just a little bit different deal,
Yeah.
And so in certain areas, and a lot of products are just regional products that they're used in certain areas, but then also it can branch out. And so I listen to the everyday crappie angler, and I watch a lot of sites out there. They might not know I'm on there, but I watch a lot of stuff and see what people are doing. And
that's great.
And guys always send me, man, I'd like to send you some jigs. I'd like to, I take them, and I look at their stuff and what people are doing. And
that's awesome.
And people are, the one thing about crappie fishermen, they're innovative. They like to do their own deal. They like to do their own stuff and design stuff and make their own baits. I think that's cool, man. I just, it.
That's the thing about this sport. You can just do any kind of style, anything from the add a hook to the jig body styles, the jig heads. It's just endless the different ways we can go about it.
And of course, the crappie market is so untapped, really. It's just, there's so much explosion here. There's so much excitement and upside to new products in the marketplace. And I know it gets tougher throughout the, as time goes on. You got your Bass Pro Shops, you got your Cabela's, you got all the people out there and everybody's trying to get shelf space. And I know that has nothing to do with our show today, but just letting people know it's just not that easy to bring a new product.
We was talking about that earlier.
Yeah, to bring a product to the marketplace.
Yeah,
because there's only so much room in those stores.
There's so much demand,
and then there's so much demand for what's in there. Then somebody else comes up with a product like the Add-A-Hook, and it's like a no-brainer. But you still have to fight for the shelf space. You know what I'm saying?
Even the word. Getting the word out on these new products is so crucial for even the people to learn how to use them.
Hey, when you guys called me and said, hey, would you like to come and be on the Crappie Connection, man, I was so pumped up, man. I was like, man, I got to do this.
Heck
because, they have a lot of podcasts out there in bass fishing all over the United States, and y'all being first to market on this deal, I'm telling you.
That's right.
Man. Hey, first to market, man, that's the deal. That's just like on lures, being first to market. You're the guy and you got it.
You ain't first, you're last.
Yeah.
Well, our intention is just like you, and, definitely we appreciate you coming on here. And I know our viewers think the same way as far as you coming on the show and different guests that we're going to have in the future coming on. But we're wanting to really showcase crappie fishing in general. We're wanting to show these new products for people can go out there and say, man, I needed that. I can't wait to find that and use that. So this is what it is, and man, just again.
Oh, I appreciate it, and I made a mistake the other day and put it online, and everybody's just like, where can I get this now? Well,
the Add-A-Hook,
the Add-A-Hook, and I was like, well, I might not should have.
Well, you're excited about it. Why not put it out there?
Exactly. But
you're going to have everybody sitting there waiting on the internet, just sitting there waiting to click it, put it in their cart, and order it.
And I thought it was pretty cool a while ago talking about another product. You were looking at these new Jig Heads, the sausage head, and it's been out a couple of years now.
So I didn't even know that.
And
I didn't pay attention.
We make it in a 1/16 and an 1/8 ounce. We looked at doing some quarters, but the marketplace is just, you got to look where the wheelhouse is when you're in business, and 1/16 and 1/8 are the most sold out there, and some 30 seconds, but you can't make this bait in a 30-second the way it's designed. Actually, it's got like a bar head on it. Looks like a deal of sausage. You know what I'm saying? It looks like
kind of looks like a hammerhead shark to me.
Yeah, it does, don't it? Exactly what it looks like.
But here's the key about it. I'm not saying that you won't get hung up with it, which you will, but here's the deal: when you're casting and retrieving, if the limb hits one side of the head, it kicks the hook away from the brush.
There you go.
You see what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, it kicks it to the opposite side, depending on, because it'll go either side like that. But, a lot of people say, well, why the bar head on there? Well, when you catch a crappie on this, instead of being round ball rolls.
Correct.
And so you catch a lot of crappie in the side of the mouth, you catch them in the bottom of the mouth, just depending on how that jig head rolls. But when you set the hook with this, when it goes up against the roof of the mouth, right there,
it goes flush.
It won't turn.
It won't turn.
Because it's got that bar on there. And also, when I shoot docks, I use the 1/16 ounce, and I can hold it in my fingers perfectly.
Really?
Yeah, the bar, instead of being round ball, it just fits in between your fingers.
Yeah.
And you don't really have to grip it. You just grip the line.
Mm-hmm.
And it just just shoot it right in there. But like I said, the sausage head also has the barbs, excuse me, on the side here, to where they're coming out on the side, and when you push that bait up in there, it's hard to get it off of there. And when the crappie bites it, it doesn't tear your lure up, because the barb is what tears your baits up.
Correct.
Yeah, me being in the bait business, I want to see you tear up a bunch of them.
Right.
I want to see you lose a lot.
Yeah.
But when he bites down on the plastic, your plastics just last longer by using the sausage head right there.
A lot of thought in a simple idea right there.
I think so. When you shot docks with it, where did you tell me again where you held that at, the jig itself?
Well, you just hold the jig like between your thumb and index finger, see, like this. This is an 1/8. You don't use 1/8 shooting docks.
Right.
You use 16ths. But anyway, you just hold it in between your fingers, and the hook always sticks out like this.
Mm-hmm.
And you get these others out of the way. I'm just like that.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have these in the way.
Little tip for dock shooting right there.
Yeah. I would never thought that would have been really good for, but I can see why it would be good
exactly.
for dock shooting.
It's and especially when I'm out on the lake, I don't cast anymore. I actually just shoot it, because when the wind's blowing and you're trying to throw a 16th ounce lure to a target,
you got to shoot it.
The wind is going to catch your line. Okay, and so the lower you have the line to the water, the less wind's going to mess with your line, and it'll go straight to the target. So even though I'm not shooting a dock, I'm just out in the middle of the lake, throwing at a brush pile or something, I'll just shoot it.
Do you shoot it? Do you shoot it with a cork too as well?
You can, but it'll tumble a little bit. You know what I'm saying? It'll tumble. Yeah, I do that too also. But the cork's going to kind of go. Yeah. The cork catches the wind, see. But you can do it either way.
What else you got there? Oh.
Well, it comes in 5 different colors. We've got it in orange, chartreuse, white, pink, a lime color, and also non-painted. So guys
non-painted dip their own. They can make their own color.
Guys can make their own. That a lot of guys do a lot of jig heads, and so this lure is available in 16th. The sausage head is in a 16th and an 1/8 ounce, and they can custom paint their own heads.
Now, who carries all them? Because I don't see them at the local Walmart at home.
The Walmarts don't carry the sausage heads by themselves, but you take Grizzly Jigs up there in Missouri. Grizzly's got them. Academy Sports has them.
That's where I've seen them, was Academy.
Yeah, Academy Sports has the sausage heads in the 6-packs. And
do they have the unpainted ones too up there, Academy?
I don't know. I really don't. They carry a few colors, though. I do know that. Again, it's to where they can't carry the full mecca of whatever.
Grizzly have everything. But you can go on their website and they got it all.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong.
If y'all looking for Grizzly, it's 800-305-9866. I mean, I send people there every day, that's looking for my products, because Grizzly Jigs really promotes our industry.
They do.
They've got everything for everybody.
Yeah.
Oh,
call and that's all.
It's a crappie store, man. Number 1 independent dealer in the United States for crappie fishing.
Yeah, I'm looking for certain corks, and they're the only ones that have it for me in bulk. So they got everything.
Well, you can come to me now because we got bets.
That's right. That's right.
Bets is in the float business, so we have a lot. We have all kinds of floats. But anyway, another item that I'm excited about, being with Strike King and for going on 9 years now, and I design all the plastics for what I like about it. Strike King is so cool. They're like, hey, Waldo, we need to get that old crazy mind of yours thinking about, we got to come up with something next year, and you got to design stuff without copying somebody else. I hate that. I hate copying somebody else's lure. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to step on anybody else's toes. And so this year, I know there ain't nobody out there with this, but this right here is called the Snapjack. And if you can see right here, it has twin tails. You may not can see it on the camera, but the tails are heavier. See, they don't stand out.
Right.
They drop down because all the weight is on the end of the tail. And they're wedged. And so when you cast this bait and you're reeling it in, the tails actually split apart like that. they get wide. And of course, I put balls on everything. I got balls on the joker. I got balls on the shad pole. And so I put these little balls on top on each side of the tail on the end because it keeps the lure from sticking. It keeps the tails from sticking together.
I got you.
Like when you're jigging it or whatever. And on Truman Lake at the Classic this year at Crappie Masters, I was using this bait right here in a black and chartreuse. And when you jig it in the water, it's just going everywhere because that weight transfers that paddle motion, and one leg's going this way and the other one's going this way in the water.
Disco.
Disco. Doing the disco duck, man, you know. So, but anyway, this bait right here is called the snapjack.
Snapjack.
Yeah, the snapjack, and when you it's so versatile. You can cast it, troll it, jig it, fish it under a cork. You can do a lot of action with this right here, just pulling it through the water column. And of course, when you're pulling it, the legs it ain't real radical, but it's got
a little twitch to it.
It's got a little twitch, and each tail is beveled to the inside. And so when you pull it through the water column, it makes the legs go. It splits like that. If you can see right there.
Yeah. A lot of research on that kind of stuff. I bet y'all put a lot of baits through the tank looking at them, don't y'all?
I spend a lot of time at a swimming pool.
Yeah.
So you can actually, once you make the initial bait and then you go test it, then you tweak it.
Right.
You know, the way the baits start out is I draw it. I'm just sitting there, you know, and Strike Kings hit me up. Hey, we need this, we need that, you know. Think of something good, think of something crazy, you know. And this bait right here is the real McCoy, because my partner was like, give me one of those at the Classic. Because we were fishing some standing timber in about 14 foot of water, and I was just whacking them on it. And they were hitting it on the fall, because when you jerk this bait up, the tails have got that weight on it, and they're kind of going like this as it's going down. And I was fishing it on an 1/8 ounce sausage head like this right here. And the way you put the bait on there is you just line it up to where the tails are just straight on with the hook, and you just weed it on there. You know, a lot of folks, you know, they want to learn how to rig each bait. You know, there's different baits you rig different ways, you know. And like my grandma, she used to just take a rubber worm and hook it in the middle. I mean, it was like wacky worm before wacky worm was and she was fishing on cane pole, catching bass with that in a cork. She'd take that, hook that rubber worm in the middle and throw that cork out there on that cane pole, and she'd just jerk it, and them bass would grab it. Mahia, Texas. But anyway, when you push it up on that sausage head right there, you just can't pull it off of there, because those barbs on that sausage heads are so aggressive. And as you can see, the snapjack, and when you I can't wait to get out there this spring and wade fishing with it, and when you're fishing in those bushes and that shallow water.
Big profile bait.
Yeah, it's a little over 2 inches.
Yeah,
a little over 2 inches long, and that it's really thin right here where it comes off the body, and then it just gets thicker right out on the end. See, because that's all the weight that's transferable.
I never seen no bait like that. That's for sure.
Well,
Snapjack.
How
many colors?
It's going to come in 10 colors, and it'll be out at Academy Sports, and for the first 6 months. Then going into ICAST next year, it goes out nationwide. This year at Academy, Mr. Crappie and Wally Marshall is going to have a 4 foot by 8 foot fixture.
Wow! That's
going to be out in the aisle. It's going to have all the combos, rods, lures, reels, all that stuff on the in 158 stores.
That's awesome.
So be checking out the Snapjack at Academy.
With a sausage head.
With a sausage head, yeah.
Right.
Exactly. So,
Would you shoot docks with that one? Have you tried?
Oh yeah. I don't know how well it's going to skip, but yeah, you can shoot docks with it. Yep. It's it came out just a little bit late for the dock shooting a little bit, and so I hadn't had to try it, but I've done a lot of casting with it and caught some fish on there. I hadn't had time to do a television show with it because we're not going, full everybody, and so they wanted to wait till next year to do a TV show on that bait right there. But in 1997, I started with Bass Pro Shops and designed crappie rods for, it was only B&M. That was the only company out there really doing. Slater had some rods, and then we started out with the Wally Marshall Signature Series. I'm really excited about that. In 2010, left Bass Pro Shops and hooked up with Lew's. Lynn Reeves that started Lew's, brought Lew's from the dead and actually rejuvenated that company, and been in business for 6 years, and then sold the company, and now the company that bought Lew's has bought Strike King and now bought Southern Plastics. And I know this is not for the everyday person to know.
No, you're
That's
fine.
interesting.
But this company, Peak Rock Capital out of Austin, Texas, these guys are really aggressive, and we're going to bring a lot of products to the market.
Keep pushing.
And 2 years ago, they bought Lew's, and one of the rods that I've came out with, I better be careful with that. One of the rods I came out with is the Speed Shooter, and I know it's really colorful and everything because crappie fishermen, we love color, man. We're flashy. Some guys ain't so flashy, you know what I'm saying? But we all like loud colors, like our baits and stuff like that. Is a lot of contrast in crappie fishing as far as baits and stuff. But this combo right here, as I was showing you guys before the show, comes with the airwave guides on here.
Yeah, now your theory on that is tell us about your theory with the spinning rods versus the big eyes.
Okay, the deal about having big eyes on a spinning rod is because when your line, if you watched it in slow motion, and you can look at this online, go to airwaveguides.com or whatever it is, just look it up, and we have it also on Lew's, and on this first guide it's kind of cupped. It's like got a little cup right there. But if you was watching a regular rod that has big eyes all the way down, your line's coming off like this. And so it's
in a circular motion.
In a circular motion. And what that does, it causes friction. And so you lose distance. And so almost on the end of this rod right here is almost microwave guides like on bass rods, really small guides. And starting out, this first guide here is probably like a number 8 maybe, or a number not quite a 6, but when you cast it out in slow motion, the line will run past the guide. Now if you got big guides, it runs it way past you don't see it with your naked eye.
Yeah,
it's so fast when you're casting. So this one right here comes off, stacks up maybe just a little bit, then goes through the hole like a rat, like his tail's going through there really fast, like he was running. And when you make that cast, I didn't mean to hit the light, but anyway, when you make that cast, it's coming off the end of your rod like an arrow or a rifle. It's just straight to the point, and then you don't have all this. And that right there catches wind. Yeah. And so, I shoot a lot of docks. I mean, I'm not so much the troller guy, but I like feeling that thump on the end of this pole, man, or just watching that line jump before you can actually feel it. But we've got this on an IM8 rod, and this setup right here, the rod has a real fast tip on it. See that right there? It's just really quick, and so when you load it up, it's like gone.
Gone.
And
is that what you use to dock shoot?
This is a dock shoot, and I designed it especially for dock shooting, or people that like to fish behind the dams and the causeways behind, and trying to get out long distance. Because we make that in a 5'6" through 7 foot, and I'm a 7 foot guy. I mean, I just love 6'6", 7 foot. A lot of people say, "Man, why don't you use a short rod when you're dock shooting?" Because a lot of times those fish are right out there on the front of the dock, or they're way back in the dock, and I don't have to get that close because that 7-footer will actually shoot it
up in there.
And then when you get a fish on, this is the key, because when you have docks, like I'm looking out here at your dock right here, and I can see it right out there. It's got poles going down in the water.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Instead of getting that crappie wrapped around one of them poles, which has happened a lot of times. With a short rod, you're doing this. You know, you're letting the fish kind of do his thing. With a 7-foot rod, you can move him in that water column a lot better, and you're more under control.
Great point, right
with
there.
That 7-foot, with that 7-footer. 7-footer, man. It's just something about it, because I started out actually. Let's see, this rod right here, the Signature Series. These 7-footers a little bit long in here. This is the new graphics on the 7-footer for 2019, or 7-footer, the Wally Marshall Signature Series. We make this in 7-foot through 16-foot in length. But this rod here I had when I was at Bass Pro Shops, and a 7-foot rod there with same action, everything, and it just has a real limber. It's not ultralight, but it's light action, and so you can actually cast into the brush with this and actually just pull. Like, you fish a lot of docks that have people like to put brush underneath there and stuff like that, and you lose a lot of hooks with a stiff rod. With a more limber rod, you can pull those jigs across those limbs, and it'll fall off the edge of those structures, and them crappie are just sitting there ready just to whack it. And I've got a couple of TV shows coming on this year on the Outdoor Channel showing this rod and the Speed Shooter. So be checking that out on the Outdoor Channel. On the last couple of weekends of January this year, we're going to run them back to back, because it has to do with the industry and where we got placement and all that kind of stuff. But this is the new graphics, this beautiful orange. When you get this out, it's kind of an iridescent orange, so when you get it out in the sunlight, it's really beautiful. But I just like the action of this rod, and I just got through doing a show, and I was catching them on that Slabalicious right there. But I don't know if you can see that right there in the camera, but that rod right there is just, it's kind of, you know, it's got a lot of bend to it, but then it loads up there, see, you know. So.
How far do you actually, can you hit a jig? Let's say 50 feet, 60 feet?
67 feet with the Speed Shooter.
67 feet?
67 feet with a 16th ounce on the Speed Shooter.
How big a target?
No, I'm talking about just dead out.
Just dead out.
I can put it right on it.
Can you?
I can put it right. You put a trash can at 67 feet, I'm gonna hit it. Because when you aim the rod, the key to hitting your target is to aim your rod at the target, keep your line parallel with the water, and let her rip. Now, if you're in wide open water and the wind ain't blowing, you don't have to really get down on it. You can just shoot it out there.
Yeah.
Because the wind ain't gonna blow it either way. And so I'm like, the wind's blowing, I keep it low to the water, and especially under docks. The key is to get it back in there into the darkest corner, darkest spot. I mean, I'm shooting cracks like you give them people over in Alabama. They really don't like you fishing their docks, so they put up all kinds of hog wire and horse panel, cattle panel, and I'll never forget one year on what's the name of that lake up there? I'm kind of blank. I'm getting old, but it was up there on the Coosa River, not a Coosa River, it's Coosa River chain, Neely Henry. I was at Neely Henry, and me and my partner Jeff Hyman, and for some reason I had a oil leak on my motor, and I blew a head on it, and so we used to use trolling motor, and we called and told the people at the tournament that, hey, we're down, and come get us at this time. You know, this is because we're going to be right here in this stretch of docks, because we're going to shoot these docks. And I'll never forget this one dock, man. It was just covered up with cobwebs, and you could tell nobody's ever been. But they had that cattle panel, the 4x4 squares, all the way around their dock. And I was shooting through the panel, and I only went down in the water about a foot. I'd shoot through the panel, catch the fish, and stick the dip net underneath the panel and get the fish. and give it slack.
Wow.
And then pull your hook back through it, then shoot it again. And we actually come in 6th in the tournament. And we couldn't get back to the river where we were catching some bigger fish.
Now I know you shoot docks a lot, but what does one have to do to the beginner to shoot docks? How can you do it at home? What you
need to do is just like we're sitting right here. You know, you can do it out in your front yard, backyard, driveway, garage. You know, and get you a 16th ounce, just really a bass sinker weight. You know, it's got a little swivel on it, and just get you a little nothing with a hook on it. And set you up a little sawhorse, something that little frame to it. Not your wife's car. Don't be trying to shoot it under her car. She have all these dents in it. But anyway, just shoot underneath those. Learn how to sit down and pull back on it. And what you do is you just barely let when you flip the bail, like this right here, I'm going to show you. When you flip the bail, you're in control right here, and you just barely let that line ride on your finger. Do not grip it up against the foam. Just let it ride on your finger. See, before these spinning reels today, a long time ago, there was just a hook there. And so they had to use their finger to stop the line. If you ever want to just stop the line, let me hold this correctly. You just drop your finger and you're in control. You just drop your finger on top of the bail. If you want to stop it, you see it going, up in somebody's boat or going up in a tree, you can just drop your finger down on the top of the spool and it stops the line. But what you always do is you flip the bail with your free hand and you close it with your free hand. Never use the handle to close the bail.
Right. Because
you throw a loop in your line. And so I'm letting it ride right here on my finger. Then when I grab the lure, I don't know if I got it right here. Here we go. And so thumb and index finger on the jig head. And when you load it up, see, and you want to hold the line parallel to the water. And wherever you're pointing it, that's where it's going to go. It's not going to go anywhere else. And if you got the right lure on there shooting the docks that will skip real good, it's kind of like skipping a rock.
Yeah.
But at your house, the question you ask, what you want to try to do is go underneath that sawhorse as far as you can without it touching the ground. That's just sit there and just persistent. I had a buddy from West Texas. He was paranoid because he always liked to dip with a long pole. And he was just paranoid of shooting docks. And so I took him to Cedar Creek Lake in Texas, which is Dock King City to go to shoot docks. And he shot it up there, and it went up on the lady's dock or whoever on the dock, and it hung a mop. And it was stuck in the mop. And so he gets out and he gets up there and he gets his hook out from that mop, and he gets back in the boat and he's shooting it again, and he hit the same mop. And so he was like, his name's Tony Scott, and man, Tony was a legend in West Texas, fishing small lakes, and they didn't do a lot of dock shooting and stuff like that because there was no docks.
That's probably the biggest fish you caught off shooting docks.
2.5 pounds maybe.
That's a fight.
2.5 pounds on a dock.
That is a fight.
Those are just the deal about shooting docks. You got to have your drag set.
Oh, yes.
And another thing, folks, about spinning reels. I know a lot of people say, "Man, I can't use one of them egg beaters. They're hard to use." Da da da. Well, I just showed you how to use them.
Yeah.
You're in control with your index finger all the time, and never close the bail with the handle. Always close it with your free hand. Once you get to your target, then close it. Then you can turn it. So, but
any spinner reels better than the others as far as dock shooting? You are all about the same.
I use a 75 sides, the WMS 75. It's not too big, not too small. It's got enough volume of line there to where you can hang up and break off many times before you have to respool the whole reel. And it's kind of a medium-sized reel, 75, WMS 75, Wally Marshall. 6 ball bearing. You need one that's pretty smooth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like one that's got slack in it. If it doesn't have a clutch in it, no, it's not good, you know. But there's a lot of reels out there on the market that have clutches and where you don't have that slack when you set the hook, you know, and that slapping.
Yeah.
So.
What about line size? You prefer to put line weight over the other, or
6 pound, pretty much all the time, especially when you have a lot of posts, stuff like that. Like my 6 pound Mr. Crappie line breaks at 8.5 pounds tensile strength. That's straight up 8.5 pounds off the floor. I like the 6 pound. Now I have found when I'm shooting docks that I have to size down to a 32nd because the fish get a little finicky, your bait's falling a little bit too fast, and the water column, and so you put a 32nd on there to where it's staying in the
slower fall,
where it's staying in the strike zone longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
You got any other products you want to tell about real quick?
Well,
get the products out of the way.
If people like cork, hand me that right there.
yeah,
Yeah, we got what you drink here.
there it goes.
And so, you know, a lot of people don't like to use foam handle rods. They like the cork, the sensitivity, the IM8 Wally Marshall Pro Series rods. This is a 7-footer also, and I have a 100 size reel on here, a little bit bigger. These rods right here, if you'll notice on all my rods, I have small guides. I don't use, you know, the big guides anymore because it's proven fact that when you get it going straight off the end, we just talked about that. But this is IM8 also, the cork handle. This is one of my new rods also. It's been out about 2 years on the Pro Series. And we make the Pro Series in cork from 7 foot up to 12 foot in length. So a lot of guys like to hold a 12 footer in their hand. I don't. For my vertical jigging rods, I like to use the Pro Series 9-footer or 10-footer. So it's not necessarily the spinning rod all the time, but you know, casting and catching crappie, probably 90% of people, that's what they do. Is because one, they're landlocked, they're fishing off of a dock, and so there's a lot of casting involved. The guys that are fortunate enough to have boats, of course, we're into trolling, and we have rods from 8 foot to 16 foot in length in the Wally Marsh Signature Series. I thought I brought one of those in here. I think I did right here. Let me see if this is the right rod. No, this is not 16 foot, but it's excuse me. It's a little 8-footer right here. And just like the 7-footer I was just showing you, we go from 18 foot to the Sweet 16s. And this rod right here is tough as nails. I've been making this same rod since 1997. And for you guys that like the long line with a little bit lighter action rod, I just seen it leaning up here, is the Speed Sticks. I know just like the Speed Shooters, it's in the same lineup. And we actually make this from 8 foot to 14 foot in length. And the 14-footer is a 2-piece. So you're not having a 3-piece rod where you're having rods going everywhere.
Yeah.
But the Sweet 16s are really good for tight line trolling, pulling crankbaits. You go to the Speed Shooters, guys do some tight line with them, and also the long lining. But I like to pull them crankbaits too every now and then.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, when it gets right. And so I stick to the Signature Series or my Trolltech series. And you can see all of this on MrCrappie.com or Lose.com. You can check out the rods there. And
cover a little bit of everything you want to do.
we've got everything from the Weekend Angler and the Mr. Crappie series. Then we have the or the Mr. Crappie custom trollers that are a lot of guys like that lighter tip on these old big fish. They like a little bit lighter tip on their rods, and we make that up to 16 foot in length also, from 8 foot to 16 foot. And
I guess Grizzly Jig would be the place to really look for all those poles.
They carry everything I got.
Okay.
I mean, they carry A to Z, Mr. Crappie, Wally Marshall, and I gave y'all the number a while ago where to get in touch with those guys. If you just now keyed in, it's 1-800-305-9866. Grizzly Jigs, Caruthersville, Missouri. The end of the world, brother. If not, you're going to run off in the Mississippi River.
Yeah. Pick up some good crappie fishing stuff before you head out.
Yeah, don't go too far, But, no, over the years, I've just been pretty fortunate to, hey, man, work hard, Yeah. It's every day, get up. I never take my foot off the gas pedal, and I just hit it hard every day, and just work at it and trying to make new products for today's angler.
That's awesome.
To me, when I think of crappie fishing, especially when I started out really crappie fishing, I can say that you were the guy that everybody looks up to. And really, my opinion has not changed over the years. You are the hardest working guy I know in crappie fishing.
Oh, yeah.
And my hat's
Most
off.
definitely.
You've helped this sport more than you can ever realize by the work that you do with the public and the manufacturer end. I mean, we need guys that's sitting there telling these manufacturers, hey, these crappie fishermen want this product. They need this product.
Right.
So my hat's off to you on my end as far as the angler and the guide and the tournament fisher to help getting these products made for us.
Right.
I mean, it all goes around.
Man, I appreciate that, man, because, I'm just one guy. I'm just one guy. And there's a lot of ears out there, and there's a lot of guys that that love just crappie fishing. Man, they just eat up with it. And
I got two guys right here.
You never know who you're going to run into, and we've had this conversation before, like last night at dinner. And you've got 1 second of being the hero or the goat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like the lady a while ago at breakfast that came up and wanted a picture. An entertainer would have probably said, I ain't got time.
Yeah.
Or I'm not saying they would, or this ain't the place, or whatever. And you just can't do that. Because you don't know who that person is. You don't know. Sometimes the old saying is, it's not good to know your heroes. Well, that ain't my case. Mm-hmm. I mean, I get calls all the time. They're thinking they're calling a manufacturer, because when you go on MrCrappie.com, my phone number's there, and they think it's a number to get repair or customer service, and I'm answering the phone.
Yeah, that's what we was talking about at breakfast. I don't see any other guy out there like you're doing, doing that. It's
just, and who am I speaking with? You're speaking with Wally Marshall. Oh, really? I didn't expect to get you on the phone. When they tell me their problem, their issue, or they're looking for a certain product, or they're wanting to know about a certain product, and I can help them right then, And if not, they can leave a message, or not leave a message. I mean, they leave the message on the comments.
Yeah.
And I can call them right back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so having that, or they can leave a message when they call me, and I call them back later if I'm in the middle of something. But I try to get to everybody I can. I try to get to, because, you got up and coming folks and young kids, and you get all kinds of calls from different people all over the world. And it's amazing the amount of crappie fishermen that are out there today. It's astronomical.
Oh, yeah. I don't think the fishing industry really realizes yet how many people crappie fish.
Well, I know that the manufacturers realize it, because they can see what's coming in and what's being sold, and they have a pretty good.
They got the numbers for sure.
They got the content of what's happening out there in the marketplace, but they really don't dig into it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. This is some extra gravy on the side. We're making bass lures, we make crappie lures, or we do bass rods, and we're doing crappie rods, and this, that, and the other. But I guarantee it, just like this show right here, this is going to wake people up to actually see what's going on deep down, because the everyday Joe don't get the gravy. They don't get to hear, like some of the things I've talked about this morning.
Right, and that's what we want to bring for sure.
Yeah, what's going on in the industry and stuff like that, because I'll tell you what, man, there's more upside to crappie fishing than there is bass side, because bass has gotten to a point now, it's cost millions of dollars to do it. And if I remember right, the first tournament I ever fished, I owned a pair of waders, I had a brown sack with some bits, crinkle head, jig heads in it, and I was using some twiddle tail, Lucky Strike, blue and white tubes. I couldn't even change color. And I stuck them in my waders, and I had a stringer and a fly rod and a popsicle for a reel.
What kind of popsicle?
Popsicle stick.
A popsicle stick.
Yeah, you take a popsicle stick and you cut a wedge on it, and you put it in the reel seat, and you just wrap your line around it.
That's
so
crazy.
I use 10-pound test, so if I got a big fish on there, I couldn't give him nothing. He's going to break my line, or I was going to go with him, or wherever. I could only walk out too far, And what was cool was, learning to wade fish and all that kind of stuff. And we get into that later. But, today's crappie angler, there's a lot of information on YouTube and
Google, YouTube. Yeah, there's tons of info out there.
There's tons of info, good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, it's like, it's not all major production. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's done with a cell phone and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And there's so many people out there doing it, and just showing and just opening people's eyes too. And we're going to talk about it later. It's talking about the expo we're going to put on next year. All I want them to do is take a bite of crappie. If you don't crappie fish and you come to the expo next year, take a bite of crappie, and I guarantee it, you'll be ruined from then on.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll be fishing for crappie for the rest of your life, even if you don't do it.
Before we take a quick break, is there anything else you want to showcase real quick?
Well, over the last 5 years, I've been with Buck Knives. And last year we started this. We make a commemorative knife, exclusive knife, Mr. Crappie. The first year we did a moose style pocket knife, and this year we did a what they call a sow belly trapper, and it comes in a nice little box here, and it's got a magnetic lid. And so if you're looking for something for Christmas or
how much
whatever,
does that retail for?
What do you think? What would you think a knife like this would go for?
$100.
$100?
I would say like $39.95. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know.
Well, you took cheap.
I have no idea.
I tell you what. I don't know if I can get.
I don't know, 3 easy payments of $19.95.
3 easy payments, huh?
I don't know.
Let me see if I can get mine out of my pocket. I don't want to take that out of the case.
Where can they find that knife?
Smoky Mountain Knife Works or MrCrappie.com on store.mrcrappie.com. So actually, the pocket knife, there's not a crappie knife on the market, and that little knife right there, being a sow belly trapper, which a trapper blade is 2 blades on one side, and my name's engraved on it, and something that I say on the TV shows a lot of time is Kapowie. I go Kapowie. And so it's engraved on the fleshing blade on there, and that fleshing blade actually come off of a knife that was a German-made knife, and it's really cool looking, and you can.
I see it's numbered too.
Oh yeah, they're serialized. There's only 1,500 of them made.
And that's $9.93. So.
No, that's number 993. Yeah,
that's $9.93 right
So
here.
how much? How much is it?
$29.95.
Hey,
and
did I get that out of the dot?
Hey,
no, you missed it.
39. You said 39. You
Oh, did I? Oh, man.
But makes great Christmas presents, and if folks want me to autograph them, and for a certain,
oh really?
But all they have to do is call me, and I turned in an order today for da 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 da. Could you please autograph it? And I done a bunch of that.
Man, your
stuff.
hands on. That's awesome.
Well, it's just I think a knife like that with I actually designed the crappie. This is on all of my T-shirts and stuff. That crappie, and so we just took that. That's it right there. And but having that double blade, and it's serrated on that first blade right there. And I've actually been cutting hay strings with that for my wife's cattle. So I had
multi-purpose.
Yeah, I was just using one of my collectors, And anyway, the knife itself is a beautiful knife, and you, like I said, you can get last year's model or you can get this year's model.
That's great.
Because I kept a few kind of stashed back from last year, and this blade right here is really cool.
Right.
So
we're going to take a quick break, hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right with y'all.
Hey, welcome back. Wally Marshall here, Mr. Crappie. I'm right here on the banks of Lake Washington down here in Mississippi with the Crappie Connection. We're talking about Mr. Brad Chappell and Justin Berry from up there in the Show Me State in Missouri.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Hey, shout out to Crappie Crazy, one of our sponsors, and the Direction TV and Mark Stowe. Give a shout out to them on Facebook. Check them out. Great things coming on there. Let's get jumped in on some couple questions that we start off here real quick. A lot of dock shooting. Brad, you want to interpret what they asked?
It's pretty basic. What kind of docks you look for? What time of seasons? Kind of really tell us your opinion on when you need to really start trying to dig in and dock shoot.
Here's the key, guys. From the end of April, basically. You can start a little bit before that, depending on water temperatures. And shade is the number one structure of all game fish.
Mm-hmm.
The darker the dock, I'm talking about less light underneath the dock, will probably produce more fish. And this is the way I do it.
Let's hear it.
I'm at home, and I'm looking at my computer. And I'm going to a strange lake I've never been on, but I know there's docks there. I will look at Google Map, and I'll see where the docks are and where they're positioned on the lake.
Mm-hmm.
Then I take a map, a hard map, and I'll look to see where the creek channels run in close to the shore. If you can find a dock that it's setting out over the creek channel,
mm-hmm.
dude, you talking about sweet Georgia Brown. That right there is like, that's the mecca of all, because fish can move in and out of that dock, because a lot of times when they're on a creek channel like that, you got a lot of contour there, mm-hmm. Of coming out of 15 foot of water up to like 3 foot of water in the back of the dock, or even deeper sometimes, or the whole dock setting in 16 foot of water. That's a year-round dock. But what I look for, especially one time I was taking some outdoor riders at Kentucky Lake, and I'd never been on Kentucky Lake. And I kind of looked at it, but I didn't know that much about it. And I asked this outdoor rider that I was taking out fishing, I said, I ain't never been on a lake. I said, he goes, well, I bass fish it all the time. And I said, well, show me where some docks are. And we pulled in this one cove, and I said, all the crappie are under that dock right over there. Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at my map. I'm looking at my map on my depth finders, and I see where the creek channel's running, and the creek channel run right on the dock. And we go over to that dock, and I flip under there, and I pull out a sack of crappie that was like 7 might have weighed 13 pounds.
Wow.
It was
That's a good dog.
And this outdoor rider was going, Ron Wong.
Yeah.
Everybody knows Ron.
Oh, it was Ron. Ron was with you?
Yeah, Ron Wong. He was the guy. And he's like, I can't believe this. He goes, is it like this all the time? And I go, no, man. He said, do you think I can do it? After I done pulled out about 15 slabs. And so I showed him how to do it, and he was flipping under there. And just do your homework before you go to the lake. Look on Google Earth. Look where the docks are. Pull out your hard map. Check it out. And we whacked them fish, and he had never seen that before in his life. He had never witnessed anybody shooting docks. And so he was, what do you call it, amorized. Mm-hmm. He was like, wow, and
yeah.
The wow factor's in, and he's getting all these crazy shots of these monster fish, Matter of fact, remind me to look him up. I need to get some of them photos of them fish.
Right.
But the key is, shade. Early in the year, you can start fishing some of the docks back in the coves, but as it goes into summertime mode and they're pulling back out, off of the spawn. You can go out on main lake points or right inside some of the coves where they start stacking up in the mouths of coves, and they'll get under the docks there.
Now, within black crappie, you talk about in the springtime up there in the shallow coves. Will them black crappie stay up there, you think?
They'll stay up there a long time. They'll stay up there.
They stay up there all year, you think?
I have caught, did a show one time with Jimmy Houston on a lake that was about 2,300 acres. And it was 103 in the shade.
Wow.
And the
water
temperature was 91.
Wow.
And we were catching crappie in a foot of water shooting docks.
That goes to tell you that they don't matter how hot it is.
Because that's where the best oxygen was.
Yeah. Yes.
See, like a lot of people saying that summertime here on Lake Washington gets tough. They're shallow. That's my thought.
Yeah.
You know, but it's clear. And so you really got to play that. You know, you may have to cork them. You may have to do something a little bit different to where you're actually casting to them.
Yeah.
Instead of using a single pole.
I remember watching you shoot docks at Grand Lake in Oklahoma. You remember that dock right there I'm talking about?
I'll never forget it, brother. Hey,
I remember it.
This is a story about Grand Lake. We was doing an outdoor riders event there too, and so I never been on Grand Lake, and so I asked the people that were guides on the lake. I said, "What do y'all do for crappie here?" And they go, "Well, we have a lot of brush piles on these points, and just go fish the points." So that morning I fished the points for about 3 hours. And I said, "The heck with this," because I was catching a little old white crappie about 10, 11 inches long. And so I went over there to a dock that looked like ought to have some fish on it.
Mm-hmm.
I caught a fish every shot for about.
I watched him.
And so I called Glenn Reeves with Lewis, and I said, "You have the best outdoor rider with me in the morning." And so I got John Neparandy, and we go out, and John's taking pictures and just doing his deal. And I was catching a fish every shot.
How big a crappie was there?
Man, up to 2 pounds. Dude. Up to 2 pounds. I mean, these were just studs. And it was in the fall. It was in October. And they were just right under the surface. And that line would jump, man. You could just see it, just bam, bam. Finally, I told John, I said, "Put that camera down, man. We need to catch some fish." And he started fishing. And we sat there and just put the spank down on them. And so we have to change outdoor riders every 2 hours.
Oh, really?
And so, yeah, you go take another outdoor rider, and that's the way those deals are set up, to where you got 12 outdoor riders, you got 12 anglers. Well, to get everybody in, you have to swap every so often. And so I had these stringers in the boat, and I said, "John, let's string them up." And we got these 2 big old chain stringers, and you could just barely lift them. We had 30 crappie. And we get up there to the dock, and everybody's up there taking pictures of these little 11-inch fish.
You roll up in there deep, don't you?
And so we pulled up in there, and John goes, "Man, I kind of feel bad about doing this." And I said, "No, man, don't feel bad about it.
It's your moment, man. Shine."
And so he grabbed his stringer, I grabbed my stringer, and we're walking down the dockway, and everybody's just kind of turning their heads. They're just like speechless.
Yeah.
Those other guides that guide there, they were like speechless, and they was going, "Where?" You know. And so lunchtime came around, and everybody's going, "Man, where are you catching them fish?" I said, "Out there on them points, on them brush piles where y'all told me they was biting. That's where I went." You know, and I never would tell them. Then that night, man, they cornered me up. They said, "Where are you catching these monster black crappie?" I said, "You ever shot any docks?" He goes, "What's that?"
Oh, my goodness. Are you serious?
I said,
That's the first time I seen it.
I said, "You've been cheating your customers."
Man.
The fun of a lifetime of shooting docks.
Now, how deep was them docks?
Anywhere from 10 foot in the front of them to 14 foot in the front of them. But they're suspended fish. What you're doing when you're dock fishing, you're catching suspended fish.
Right.
A lot of times, because when the water starts cooling down, the fish get high in the water column, so they're suspended, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the way I shoot a dock is when I shoot it in there the first time, and I let it go all the way to the bottom, and I don't get a bite, I'll shoot it back in there again, and I'll reel it just a little bit faster. Then I'll shoot it in there again and reel a little bit faster.
Right.
And so you find that depth of where you start getting bites.
That speed.
You can't see them with the naked eye, but when you catch one, there's others chasing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you do is you draw the school out to you, basically.
Oh, really?
A little bit. And so you can actually just not cast as far and start getting bites out closer to the boat. But it's being persistent.
Have you ever used a lot of corks when you shoot docks?
Corks?
Mm-hmm.
Can't get them out of there.
Very rarely.
Because if you can get a cork under a dock, it would have to be this high up off the water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You just really couldn't get it
I got you.
back in there where it needs to be. But if you need for it to fall slower, use a lighter jig, 32nd or even smaller. If you just want it to just barely fall,
Yeah.
It just
Slow fall.
But man, that night they cornered me up, and I told them how I was catching them, and then other guys from other guides started doing it.
Me.
And
You started doing it?
Yeah.
Did you really?
And it was ugly, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was ugly.
What did
Ugly being good.
Yeah.
Did you accomplish it?
Yeah.
And so
Really?
It was unreal.
here was on this one dock,
I remember the dock he's talking about. I think I could still find that
the
dock. matter
jet
of fact.
skis where you pull the jet skis up, because the way they had their dock, it was all blocked off, and it came out and it had this, but they had these two jet skis floats where you just pull the jet skis up on top of them and dock them.
Right.
Well, it had a gap in between them that was about this wide.
Well, you're deadly on it, ain't you?
And you shoot it in that gap, and it was open in the back, but it was really dark under there. I mean, no sunlight. And what it'd do, it shot it in there, then it'd fall down through that crack.
Bam.
Bam. And so what I'd do is I'd pull up a little bit and let John shoot it, then I'd pull back and I'd shoot it, and then pull up and let John shoot it.
That's
and so
awesome.
and several other guides we went out with, we was just hammering them, and a lot of the guys weren't set up with the spinning rods and stuff, or the 7 foot. Like I said, I like to use that 7-footer, man, and that's what I was using was my signature series then. It is just.
That was 5 years ago. This past October.
Was it 5 years?
It was 5
Wow.
years ago.
Well, all I know is if you want to go to lakes that have a lot of good dock shooting, of course, Wise Lake in Alabama, you go to Cedar Creek Lake in Texas, even Lake Fork, any lake that has docks,
Mm-hmm.
there's crappie.
Yeah.
Because, again, folks out there watching, shade, shade, shade is the key.
Yep.
And just like here, Brad, if you had a boat slip out there,
Mm-hmm.
what we used to do at the marinas is we'd take a tarp and we would stretch the tarp over the boat slip,
Make it darker.
and we would rent the boat slips to have us a place to wintertime crappie fish.
Really?
And so we would put brush in around the edges, a little bit of brush, not a ton, and then put the tarp over the boat slip with bungee cords and leave a gap around the sides. Dude,
That's a great
we
idea.
caught crappie like no tomorrow. And see, you don't even have to own a boat.
Yeah.
Just rent you a boat slip for 2 or 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And you can catch all the crappie you want on these boat slips on these lakes.
I'll be darned.
Probably at a discounted rate even.
Well, I mean, it's just, hey, wintertime rate, it might be a little cheaper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Your own honey hole.
if in crappie fishing, as everybody knows, pretty much if you build it, they will come.
Mm-hmm.
From a brush pile to a
Shade.
shade, build the shade. That's what brush piles produce, is shade, because the sun's coming in at one angle and the shade's on this side of the brush pile. Sun's over here, the shade's over here. And if you're fishing standing timber, always fish on the shady side.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
I guess my last question about dock shooting for right now is there a particular color that you always start out with? Especially, we're talking about dark, shady area. Do you want a particular color that you want to start out with to try them?
It has to do with the stain of the water, the clarity of the water. But I always start out with refrigerated white. it's white and chartreuse. White and chartreuse works on every lake, United States, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
But if you start getting a little bit darker, murkier water, I'll go to some kind of orange. You go to like a Cajun cricket color or something like that.
Right.
Or I may go to a June bug, something that's a little bit darker. Darker the water, darker the bait.
Right.
Lighter the water, lighter the bait.
Right.
And so, but being clear or not, you're not spooking the fish.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But just getting it back in there. I'll never forget I was doing a TV show with Jimmy Houston on Cedar Creek Lake. Jimmy, I got to tell this one on you, and I'm still mad at you about it.
Forewarning.
No, I'm not mad at him. But we were doing a TV show on Cedar Creek Lake, and we was fishing these one set of docks. It was actually like a marina, so there were several docks.
Oh, yeah.
Just connected docks. And we were throwing a Marabou Roadrunner because Roadrunner's our sponsor, right? And we're doing the Roadrunner show. We was using a redhead, black, white. That's what I was using, and Jimmy was using another color or whatever. And so we was just hammering them. And he was sitting actually in the driver's seat, and I was up on the front of the boat and flicking on there, and I swung a fish around to Jimmy to take my fish off. He goes, I ain't taking your darn fish. He goes, He goes, hey, man. I said, dude, I'll take your fish off. Why ain't you take my fish?
Right.
He goes, I ain't going to do it. He just flat rejected, I'm not taking your fish off, because I was kind of smoking him. No, man, he could catch them too, but just having a lot of fun, man. If you want to take a kid fishing, crappie fishing is a family sport.
Yeah.
From 8 to 80, man. It's just like everybody can do it. Grandma, grandpa, type deal. And guys, I'm telling you, dock shooting is the if you can find the lakes that have the docks. And I've actually had people call me and say, well, I can't fish your classic because there's no docks on the lake.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, there are some, but not a ton. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, guys, hey man, it's been good.
Yeah, for sure. We're gonna. You got anything else you want to add real quick before we close the first part out?
Man, I just want to thank you guys for starting this. The Crappie Connection, man. I think it's a great name. I think you're on the right track because a lot of information can be. People out there that want to learn how to crappie fish or get into the market or just get started for the first time and have never fished.
Yeah.
And to get excited about it because,
it's fun, flat out.
Hey man, when I was first started, it was just crazy. You couldn't even sleep at night, thinking about the
I
next
can't
day.
even sleep. I'm 33 years old and I still can't sleep about until the next, I'm going the next day.
Oh, dude, I was just getting started, man. Right when you're 33, that's when I started, you know. And it's just such a great sport, and like I said, everybody can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you coming for sure. We're going to close it out. We're going to have a 2-part segment on you. So we got a lot of great content coming for you guys. So stay tuned. I'm Justin Berry.
Brad Chappell.
Mr. Crappie.
That's right. We'll be back at you. Appreciate it.
Holla.
On the lake in a fishing pole. River here, I'll rest my soul. I can feel my worries drift away.